For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
Following program are pre-recorded Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach, along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. And we're going to talk about our friends, the PBMs, Kevin.
Oh, yeah, they're our best friends.
Okay.
Because they're controlling the cost of prescription drugs for the American public.
When people talk, okay, I want to back up a little bit and give a little history of PBMs again, because it's been a long time since we've talked about them. So PBMs actually came into being because, hey, we're going to simplify the process and help consumers, and we're going to help providers, and that'll keep the cost down.
Mm-hmm. So in the 1960s...
Well, PBM stands for?
Prescription Pharmacy Benefit Managers.
Right. So PBMs.
So in the 1960s, it was decided that insurance companies would start paying for prescription drugs. They didn't before that. I graduated from pharmacy school in 1980, and at that time, we would fill out forms to provide, they would pay cash, we would fill out forms, provide them to the patients, they would file that with their insurance company to get reimbursement according to their contract. In the 90s, drug companies started to buy up the PBMs, but the Federal Trade Commission put a stop to that. Fast forward a little bit, the big insurance companies started to buy up the PBMs. That's called vertical integration. They vertically integrated the benefits managers with the insurance companies that were they're the plan sponsor.
And originally they were set up to work autonomously and be a go-between between the insurance and the pharmaceutical companies and the patient.
Right. So
and the providers.
Right.
So and they sat in the middle of all that.
Right. So their model was built on the fact that they were going to be the negotiators with the big pharmaceutical companies to negotiate the price of prescription drugs, reduce the costs, and then those cost savings would go back to the plan sponsors. So Blue Cross, for instance, Blue Cross's original PBM was Prime Therapeutics. Prime Therapeutics would negotiate drug costs. The savings would go back to Blue Cross, and then Blue Cross would be able to control the cost of premiums to the buyers and the patients, because they were getting these dollars back from the pharmaceutical companies.
I.e. keeping healthcare costs down.
So I would ask you, Steve, when is the last time your premium went down on your health plan?
That would be a never.
Yeah. No, never happened.
Never happened.
What they figured out is they were negotiating these rebates back from the drug companies, and they were engaging in things like spread pricing, which we'll get into a little bit, and they were literally pocketing this money to the point now where these PBMs are worth billions and billions of dollars. It's thought that, well, it's not thought, it's known now that CVS Caremark, so there's your integrative example, CVS owns Caremark. Caremark's the largest provider of prescription drug benefit managers in the country. Cigna owns Express Scripts. United Healthcare owns OptumRx. These three behemoth companies, it was 80%. It's now being reported that they have about 89% of the market. They're controlling the prescription drug market at a rate of about 89% in the country. And last year they were valued at $518 billion. $518 billion is what these three...
Over a $500 billion.
$500 billion. That was what these companies were valued at. And yesterday I filled a prescription for my mother. I got paid 41 cents. And that's what I got. That's what we got paid total.
As
for the drug,
as the pharmacy,
as
the provider.
As the provider. For the drug, for the container, for salaries, for rent, for lights, 41 cents. How long do you think I'll be in business making 41 cents being paid by a company, a conglomerate that is worth almost $520 billion?
Okay, from a business model, how do they think that's sustainable?
They know it's not.
Okay, so when all the pharmaceutical companies are out of business, except for the big ones that own their PBMs, how does that benefit a consumer?
It doesn't. That's their goal. Their goal is to drive, especially small independent community pharmacies, because I don't think there's any question we provide the best pharmacy care service across the country. I don't think there's any question. With all the controversy in these big box stores and their pharmacists walking off the job, and the abuse and the underpayment and overworking their employees, these big companies right now, all you got to do is go to the Wall Street Journal and start reading about the disaster that's going on. And then you have mail order companies that patients are being mandated to use, and we'll look at some of the statistics on that. They're trying to get rid of us. So independent community pharmacies represent about $81 billion in the marketplace. So we're big players in the marketplace. We're not $520 billion, but there's enough community pharmacies in the country that
enough to make them greedy about it.
Oh yeah. So NCPA, National Community Pharmacists Association, which is really our professional body, did a survey earlier this year. They surveyed 10,000 pharmacies and they got like over 8,000 responses, which is huge in a survey. Typically, you don't get a response like that. NCPA reported that 90% of independent community pharmacies says if things don't change quickly, they will not participate in Medicare Part D prescription plans in 2025. 90%. So where are people going to get their prescriptions from? They're going to be forced to go to these behemoth mail order systems that are owned by the PBMs. 16% said they did not think that they would survive through 2024. Our reimbursements have gotten so bad that we just can't stay in business. 41 cents is what I got paid for a prescription yesterday. 7% of independent community pharmacies consider their business profitable. That's about 1,300 of the 20,000 community pharmacies in the country. 7% consider themselves profitable. And 80% of the dollars made by independent pharmacies come from prescription drugs. So they're just cutting the head off the snake. If they can get rid of the dollars that independent community pharmacies generate, we just go out of business. I don't think there's any question that that's really what they're after. I want us to go away so they have complete control of the market. They want us to go away so they have complete control of the market.
Okay, so when we come back from the break, I want to talk about control of the market because we're in political season now, and one of the talking points is, controlling pharmacy prescription prices.
Right.
And that's been a talking point for a long time. But what's being done about it? And there's a lot of moving parts here because at the end of the day, a lot of people in North Dakota go to Canada.
Yeah, or Mexico.
Or Mexico, because they don't have a choice.
Or they order it off the internet.
Well, yeah.
And then they get drugs laced with fentanyl.
Yeah, that's sketchy at best. We're talking with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk.
Super Talk.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, your tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bachman with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. We're talking about PBMs and how it plays into prescription costs, healthcare costs, and PBMs, which are the devil. I guess that's probably the easiest way to say it, which they were set up to help facilitate ease of use for customers, patients, and has turned into a nightmare because they got financially very lucrative.
Oh, unbelievably.
And now acquired by the pharmacy companies, the pharmaceutical companies tried buying them. They're not doing what they were supposed to do.
No. And to me, the biggest problem is our competitors determine our business. CVS Caremark's one of our biggest companies that we work with. CVS owns them. CVS is a big box pharmacy. They determine our reimbursement. They determine what hoops we have to jump through to get a patient to get a prescription paid for with prior authorization, going back to the physician, changing it to the drug that they want to pay for and not what the doctor prescribed.
Well, and we'll get into that too, because there's, if your healthcare provider, your doctor prescribes a specific medication, in fact, we talked in the past about a case where somebody couldn't get their generic, so they couldn't afford it, and then they died.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
specific case.
But we're hearing a lot of chirping about there's some congressional oversight now.
Yeah.
And
hopefully.
Plain and simply, this is turned into a massive monopoly with three big companies that are trying to control the entire market share.
90% of the market share. And
that's not good for consumers.
No.
We're based on competition.
Right. So remember the vertical integration where the insurance the primary plan sponsor owns the pharmacy benefits manager. So they're allowing what's happening now is it's being allowed that these benefits managers are negotiating dollars back from the drug manufacturers, and vertically that feeds their coffers. Originally, that was to go back to the plan sponsor to control cost of premiums. The biggest plan sponsor in the country right now is the United States government because of the Medicare plans and the Part D plans. So if it worked as it should, the federal government should be getting tons of dollars back from the PBMs that would help control the cost of drugs, the cost of implementing these plans, and that's not happening. The PBMs are keeping the money. I'm more angry as a taxpayer than I am as a pharmacist in what's going on in this world because it is costing the taxpayers billions and billions and billions of dollars.
Well, for example, you and I were talking before we started this morning. You and I were talking about the Postal Service.
Yeah.
And there was just an audit done on their health care.
I got this yesterday. The Inspector General of the United States released a final audit report for the American Postal Workers Union Health Plans pharmacy operations. Their PBM, which is Express Scripts, overcharged the Postal Worker Union's pharmacy plan $45 million in a 3 or 4 year span. So who's responsible for funding that Postal Workers Union healthcare plan?
Well, those are tax dollars.
You and I, taxpayers' dollars. They were bilked, overcharged $45 million. Somebody needs to be held accountable for this.
Okay, that's just flat out fraud, and somebody should be in prison.
Yes. These people need to be tracked down and charged with fraud and robbery, because that's what they're doing.
Okay, so now, and I know you go to Washington, D.C. quite a bit, and there's been talk, but this has been going on for quite a while, and why hasn't Congress paid attention to this?
Oh, I think there's just too many lobbying dollars that are being generated by PCMA is the lobbying group for the PBMs. Huge. They have huge lobbying. Well,
when you're overcharging taxpayers $45 million on just one case, you got money to lobby with.
And you're gonna spend a lot to keep being able to do that, because that $45 million is a drop in the bucket compared to the $520 billion that these guys are valued at. But gladly, I think there's just been enough discourse, both during election years, and we're finally getting the patient screaming about the cost of their prescription drugs, that Congress has taken notice. So there's some legislation. It's 2023 legislation. It's rolled over into this year. So we're really hoping that we can maybe get some things done before we get too deep into the election, because then they get busy with that and nothing gets done. So there's Senate Bill 127 is a PBM Transparency Act. The problem with the PBMs is they're non-transparent. They're not opening. The government uses them, but they don't open their books to our government so that they can see what's really going on in the dollars and cents. So the PBM Transparency Act of 2023 would really make them open up their books so that our regulators can see what kind of dollars they're generating, what kind of dollars they're keeping, what are they doing with spread pricing, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So,
for example, when the Inspector General releases an audit report, we're only getting one side of that. So that's $45 million that they found on the transparent side. That's not what's hidden under the blankets.
Right. Yeah,
that could be $145 million.
Right. You start looking at if they're forced for some reason to open up their books, you're going to see an unbelievable amount of money that these guys have kept. And if that happens, and I hope it does, there's going to be people in big trouble, because they're fraudulent. We do fraud, waste, and abuse things all the time to prove that we're honest and we're not frauding the system. These guys don't. They make us do it, but the PBMs aren't. They're not held accountable for their fraud, waste, and abuse, because that's what they are. They're a fraud, they're wasting taxpayers' dollars, and they're abusing pharmacies. They are the pinnacle of what is fraud, waste, and abuse, and they're not held accountable. They're non-transparent in that world. There's a Senate Bill 2052, so it has to do with any willing pharmacy. So any willing pharmacy that's willing to provide service should be paid fairly. CVS there's been some reports that, so when a patient is forced to use a CVS pharmacy, whether it's locally or through mail order, there's some reports that they pay themselves about 10 times the amount of what they pay other providers. In fact, other big box stores won't take contracts from somebody like CVS Caremark because they get paid for so poorly. So they're forced back to use their CVS pharmacies. And because they're in control of what the reimbursements are, they pay themselves a lot more than they would pay somebody like me. And that's just like unbelievable that my competition is in control of what I get reimbursed and what we get paid. So that's the abuse. They're horribly abusing small independent pharmacies. There is a House Bill 1613 and a Senate Bill 1038, the Drug Price Transparency and Medicaid Act. So state Medicaid systems use PBMs to manage their prescription business. In North Dakota, this is done very well. Brendan at the state level is a pharmacist. He's responsible for the Medicaid program. He does a very good job of vetting the PBM that they use. And our best payer as an independent pharmacy, our best payer right now is North Dakota Medicaid. And they proved a couple years ago that they would save if our state Medicaid program was allowed to manage, I think they were looking just at the PERS plan, which was managed by Optum. If that came back to the state and the state managed it, they would have saved like $18 million a year. $18 million. We're not a big state.
Then why
That's
hasn't that happened?
Our legislators didn't agree that should be done. They gave him a small piece just as an example, and he proved that he could save us that money.
Fascinating stuff. And remember, it's all our tax dollars and our healthcare dollars not working for us, but quite often working against us. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
About the pets. Steve Dale's Pet World. Saturday afternoon at 4 on Super Talk 1270. Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Stu Bonkin along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drug Store. We're talking about PBMs, and we were talking a little bit before the break about North Dakota and how North Dakota managing their own and having their own PBM, managing the North Dakota Medicaid system. There's a lot of savings out there. The legislature didn't agree with that and hand it all back over to the state. But there's some laws on the books that should be helping North Dakota residents and, well, flat out preserve their tax dollars.
So as we lobby federal, our congressional people in Washington, it's been well made. We've been really told, do your regulation at the state level. The federal government's slow. It doesn't get things done. It's too complicated. So North Dakota.
And I want to clarify that because you do spend a lot of time in Washington and a lot of time with our congressional delegation. And North Dakota's got some pretty good advocates in Kelly Armstrong in the House and Kevin Kramer and John Hoeven in the Senate.
Yeah, they're all very, very much in tune and pharmacy friendly, to be honest with you. They see the value of small business. Small business in North Dakota, I think it's a big driving force. We're just a small piece of that, but the abuse that we take, I think it's something that they've kind of gotten in tune with.
And we've talked in the past about North Dakota being one of those unique states where the ownership of the pharmacy and they don't like that on the big scale. They don't like North Dakota. The PBMs and the big pharmacy companies, they don't like the way the ownership rules are set up in North Dakota.
Yeah, I believe they're going to come after our ownership law again in the next legislative session. They've kind of left it alone because we're the only ones, so they're just really not. They don't think it's worth.
But there's other states that have looked at building the North Dakota model, and they've squashed that pretty quick.
Oh yeah,
they don't want that around.
So a small state out east, I can't remember for sure if it was Vermont or New Hampshire. They tried to get a pharmacy ownership law back on the books. It got squashed, and the dollars that they would have had to spend to do it, all of their big box stores who are tied to these PBMs would be in place and they'd grandfather through. So it was really pointed out to their legislative body that it really wasn't going to make that much difference. But I think the idea that another state was going to try to model after us leads us down the path of, well, now we just have to get rid of North Dakota's ownership law and then it's all said and done. And then we just keep squashing these guys. But North Dakota, as well as some other states, have done a pretty good job of passing what we call PBM laws. And I have an example of some of those. PBM licensure and registration. So if I feel like I'm being abused by a PBM, which we've tried, there's a law that's a requirement on the reimbursement appeals. So if we see a reimbursement like the 41 cents that I talked about earlier, we have the right to appeal that reimbursement, proving our cost of goods, cost of doing business to get a better, and we use, they're called PSAO, they're pharmacy contract managers to do these audits, but these appeals are ignored. So when an appeal is ignored, who do we go to file a complaint? And for most of the time, the PBMs, they weren't licensed in the state to do business, so there's nobody that they would report to. So there is legislation called PBM licensure and registration. There's prohibition against adjudication fees. So when we process a claim and we pay the adjudication fees, which is their business, we have a line item. When we fill a prescription now, we're seeing a 34-cent fee attached to every prescription that we electronically file a claim on that we pay, which is their business. They should pay their own adjudication fees.
Yeah.
So our PBM reimbursement and our accounts payable from these guys, it's starting to look like credit card bills and cell phone bills because they're just littered with fees. And what are they? They just make this. I think they just make
it up.
They make it up. Yep. So fair pharmacy audit procedures. There's a lot of audit abuse that goes on. They come back and audit us, and then they take dollars back, claiming we made a mistake. Sometimes it's the misspelling of a patient's name. They'll find that, and then that's a mistake. So they take the dollars back on the claims that we made. Their auditors come in and they just stay until they find a bunch of money.
Okay, my question
and they're mining for money.
Who gets to audit the auditor?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what pops up to my head.
Yep.
And is that something on a state level where the state needs to take a stance, or does it need to be on a federal level?
Well, both. But in our case, we have these PBM bills. There's any willing pharmacy, North Dakota 26.1 to 27.1-4. It's an any willing pharmacy. Any pharmacy that's willing to do business, fill prescriptions for patients, should have access to the same finances and reimbursement as any other pharmacy. It's on the books. You think it gets done?
Who's in charge of enforcing that?
Well, that's the problem. Nobody wants to step up and take charge of this. And I don't want to name names, but just think of what the offices in the Capitol that would be responsible for this. The first one that comes to mind would be the insurance commissioner. I don't think the insurance commissioner office thinks they have the power to oversee somebody that's worth $520 billion.
Why not?
Well, it's a fiduciary problem. They don't have the dollars to do that. In my opinion, you can get the dollars, you make them license, and you charge them enough for the licensorship that pays your department to hire the people that can do the job to oversee these people and make them open their books.
So what pops to mind for me is the insurance commissioner's office, the state auditor's office, and the tax commissioner's office.
Right.
Those are the three that pop up to me that go, okay, why are you not helping out residents of North Dakota? Those are the three offices, I think. Is there a case where they would go, okay, fine, we're just not going to deal with North Dakota? Is that what they're concerned about? I don't know.
I really don't know either. I'll probably get in a whole lot of trouble today, but the time is now.
That's our job.
The time is now because we're seeing some unbelievably tragic things going on in medicine, and we're going to talk about that in the next segment.
Yeah, let's come back and talk about some of those, because we mentioned the young man that passed away because they wouldn't fill a generic prescription because they make more money off of the name brand, and, well, you can't really afford the name brand a lot of times. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bach, along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. We're talking about PBMs, Prescription Benefits Managers, and the scary monster that they have become. And really, it's racketeering. It is to the level of the worst. When you start talking about what it does to your healthcare costs, the worst example of a monopoly that I could imagine.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the state level, the federal level, all kinds of integration across the market share and what it means for your local pharmacist. North Dakota, of course, has pharmacy ownership laws, the only state that does. We are talking about how these big box stores own the PBMs, so they're in essence double dipping. We've got some laws on the books in North Dakota, but there's a question of enforcement or who's managing those laws or those rules.
Who do I, as an independent pharmacy owner, file a complaint with when I'm abused? And we get abused every day.
Well, hell, the governor grew the Department of Health. Why not there, right?
Yeah.
That's a third of our budget. Yeah. They might as well do something for that money. So now let's talk about some of the examples. And we've mentioned the generic, that was an inhaler for asthma, young man that passed away. But there are examples all over the place where your healthcare provider, and we talk about the triad of care all the time, which is you need to be your biggest advocate, your doctor or nurse or whoever you see for health care, and your pharmacist. It's all part of the triad of care.
Right.
You need to work together. But now we've got the insurance companies through the PBMs that are dictating health care. No, we don't think you're going to get that medication because we want you to take this medication. Well, but your doctor's the one and your pharmacist's the one that knows that one may not work for you, or you may have an allergy or something that doesn't work with. But you've got PBMs that are basically being healthcare providers.
Right.
They're not licensed.
No.
They're not physicians.
They provide no care, to be honest with you. They have
But they get to dictate your care.
They have no inventory, but they get to dictate what we can dispense to a patient. Our pharmacy works.
I can't remember the last time that I called up a PBM for a doctor's appointment.
Right. Oh, you will eventually.
Okay, that's my question.
So here's a perfect example of that. We're going to come back to the individual with the inhaler because it's just tragic. This I got on April 5th. So this is 13 days old. Presenting the Express Scripts GLP-1 program. So we've talked about the GLP-1s, the semaglutides for weight loss.
No. For controlling diabetes, but hey, It does some weight loss magic as well. So different rabbit hole, but we'll talk about that coming up as well.
So effective April 1st, 2024, Express Scripts implemented a new program that expands overall access to GLP-1s for those patients most in need. Doesn't that sound great?
Sounds awesome.
They're stepping up to the plate, and they're going to help patients pay for these GLP-1s when they have an obesity problem that's affecting their health. So for them to pay for the GLP-1 medications, they have to enroll in Express Scripts GLP-1 program. So the prescriber and there's a virtual company called Amada Health. You have to use them. You have to use their virtual health model. You have to get their prescription from them. And if you're enrolled in their GLP-1 program and use Amada Health, they'll pay for your medication. So they're telling you who you have to use as your prescriber to get your medication paid for.
But you have to go through their telehealth program and talk to one of their telehealth physicians who's not...
Or answer 5 questions. You may not even see a person. Answer a few questions, and then you get this. And without any input on the necessary lifestyle changes to make these healthy programs, but that's what you do to have to get them to pay for it.
I used to love 2.5 Men, and one of my favorite episodes was Martin Mull as Charlie's pharmacist.
Right.
And I remember the episode where Charlie couldn't sleep. Well, we'll get your prescription for medical marijuana.
Yeah.
Well, but how do I do it? I got a guy in India.
Yeah.
We'll pull him up at the computer. You have glaucoma. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Where the hell's the healthcare in that? But that's what we're getting to.
So
that's what we're getting to.
Right. And PBMs and big stores like CVS are trying to become healthcare providers. They're buying up doctor groups to provide healthcare through virtual models.
Okay, that's the other side of this that I was going to ask you about because, okay, you've got a lot of physicians that don't work in a hospital setting. They'll work in a clinic setting. And in our case, our clinics, for the most part, are an extension of the hospital system. That's not the case everywhere. A lot of places, you'll have private physicians that are doing their own thing. Great example is Bone and Joint are orthopedic surgeons here. They are a private clinic. They're affiliated with those other hospitals, but they're independent.
Right.
What if a CVS bought them?
Yeah.
And, you can have your knee replacement, but you have to go here.
You have to go here. And
you have to go to our provider.
And you have to use the replacement that's authorized for payment by the payer because they're going to get a kickback. It may not be the best kind of joint.
And I'll use Stryker for an example because they're one of the biggest ones out there with medical devices. So if you get a shoulder replacement or a knee replacement, that's one of the big products that are out there. Okay, but if they work out a deal with that company and then now maybe that one, because my doctor knows me in theory, that this device would be better for my lifestyle. Oh, no, you're not going to have that choice because they get more from the other company.
So the decision is made by the payers that if we don't make the maximum amount of dollars on the service that we're paying for, we're not going to pay for it. What? So if the insurance companies don't make money on the procedure, and now we're looking at them, if they don't make money on your prescription drug, they don't pay for it. And this Wisconsin example is...
But they're supposed to be making money off of my premium.
Well, they still do.
Wait a minute, they still are.
They still are. And their premiums continue to escalate.
So they're getting paid on the front end, paid on the back end, and then controlling everything in between.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
That's a monopoly.
Pretty much.
That's racketeering. You're right. There should be people in prison. I tell you what, I want to hold you over the break because there's still a lot more to talk about.
Sure.
This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Welcome to April 18th on the National Day calendar. Today, we're delving into the uplifting history of an iconic hand gesture and exploring their origins of a beloved childhood snack.
High fives might seem like they've been around forever, but actually, the term only goes back to the late 1970s. According to one account, it was first used during a basketball game when a player excitedly slapped another's raised hand after a successful play. Since then, this simple yet powerful gesture has become a global symbol of camaraderie, celebration, and success. So on National High Five Day, let's connect with those around us, one high five at a time.
You know, this goes back to baseball as well. There's two accounts, one for basketball. The other one was the LA Dodgers, I think in October of 77.
That's actually cool. What did they do before that?
That's a good question. I just assumed it had been around forever.
Right?
I would think this would be bigger than handshakes. I don't know. It's just interesting to me. From a victorious gesture, we move to a sweet, nostalgic treat. Animal crackers. First introduced in the UK in the 19th century and later popularized in the U.S., these adorable bite-sized cookies were originally associated with Christmas. Over time, they became a staple in children's diets thanks to their whimsical shapes and delicious taste. On National Animal Crackers Day, let's honor this nostalgic treat by enjoying a box of these delightful biscuits.
Animal crackers in my soup, monkeys and rabbits loop the loop. Gosh, okay, but I have fun swallowing animals one by one.
These were some of my favorite snacks growing up as a kid.
Do you know why there's that string on it?
No.
It was actually a Christmas ornament originally, and they've kept it through all these years.
Is that true?
That actually was. It came out for Christmas, and they thought they would put them on trees. That was the way to sell them originally.
That's actually a really good idea.
Do you bite the head off first?
Of course. That's the only way to eat them. You're a monster.
Buddy, I actually started the legs first. So I don't know.
Of course you do, Marlo.
Why don't people just eat the whole thing? I don't know.
I'm Latoya Johnson.
I'm Marlo Anderson.
Thank you for joining us on our journey to celebrate every day.
And don't forget to share your High Five and Animal Cracker Day stories with us using hashtag Destination Celebration. Until next time, keep celebrating.
KLXX Mandan Bismarck, a Town Square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union studio.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
News, talk, and sports for Bismarck Mandan. Super Talk 1270.
Portions of the following program are pre-recorded.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Michael. I'm with Kevin Overland from Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. We're talking about PBMs, Pharmacy Benefits Manager, although I'm not quite sure who they benefit. Certainly isn't the patient.
I wish I would. I wish I could. I wish I could manage my dollars. They manage my dollars.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to get into some specific examples because there's some tragic stories that are coming out of this when your providers, your triad of care isn't being managed by you.
Right.
That's the problem. That's the biggest problem in all this. You can talk about the money, you can talk about the tax dollars, you can talk about your premiums, but at the end of the day, if the patient isn't being served to promote their health care, I could start getting into Hippocratic Oath issues and everything else, but there's some tragic examples out of here that show that PBMs and what is becoming the healthcare system and the monopoly and the graft and corruption, and it's not going to end well. No. And it's not ending well now for some patients.
I think our healthcare system is spiraling out of control. And these PBMs are just an example of what goes on throughout healthcare. They're managing the benefits part, but there's other benefits managers that they're determining what kind of healthcare a patient gets. A quick example: somebody I know diagnosed with breast cancer. They went in and removed the lump, and they shouldn't have done it because it was growing aggressively. They should have done chemotherapy first to shrink the lump so that it would be more easily removed. Now she's entering into a world where she needs the chemotherapy and she needs an immunology drug beside it, but her insurance won't pay for the immunology drug because it's post-surgery. And it's only $12,000 a month.
Only. So
the patient's trying to survive, and who can afford $12,000 a month for the drug that's necessary? Hopefully this will get resolved through some other help and a different provider in a different state. Anyway.
Okay, so question before we get into these. Argument for socialized medicine. But I don't see that as a solution because we look at socialized medicine and that's a nightmare. Look at Canada and that is a nightmare. Yeah. And that's what we've got one side of the political aisle pushing for. I kind of look at this right now as what's happening with the PBMs is that's going to be your socialized system.
Right.
So we're already getting a glimpse of what socialized medicine looks like. That's not the solution.
So is this what we want? March 11th, a newspaper article written out of a newspaper in Wisconsin. The title is "Wisconsin Family Speaks Out Against PBMs After the Loss of Their Son." And again, this was published on March 11th of this year. Cole Schmidt-Necht was a 22-year-old young man living in Appleton, Wisconsin. He was diagnosed with severe asthma at 1 year of age. He just recently moved out of on his own with opportunities to chase his dream until his life was cut short. On January 10th, he went to the pharmacy to get his prescription inhaler, and he was told that it was no longer covered by his insurance, says Shannon, his mother. He was told there was no alternative option and no generic drug would be covered. He didn't know how to respond. He couldn't cover the extreme out-of-pocket costs on his $19 an hour income. He left the Walgreens pharmacy that day with no medication. 5 days later, he suffered an extreme asthma attack, was taken to a hospital, put on a ventilator, and died 6 days later. So now we have companies making decisions for patients based on how much money they can make, and a patient dies. And my message with this to Washington was, as I'm beating on the desk in my office, is stop this madness. This has got to stop. We have got to stop letting these behemoth companies making billions of dollars determining a patient's health care or what prescription they're provided by how much money they make. This has got to stop. There's no question. We cannot have people dying because they can't afford the copay. They could if they kept paying for the generic, but the PBM refused to pay for it. They would only pay for the brand name, which is way more expensive. Why? Why would they only pay for the brand name?
They get paid more money.
They get more kickback from that pharmaceutical company than they do on the generic. And Cole dies. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. In this country that something like this happens today.
Okay, so when you're looking at where this is going, because it's hard to imagine we're not past a tipping point now, but we really are if things don't change, if Washington doesn't make changes, then where are we at?
Right.
I mean, I would say we're probably a little over the precipice.
Yep.
But how do you reel that back?
That's why it has to change
now.
It has to change. So the PBMs are really good, and PCMA, their lobbying group, they're really good at convincing our lawmakers that if they're eliminated from the model, costs go up. Costs go up for patients. That's really not true. PBM reform in the states that are doing it has not raised costs for patients and payers. There's several state examples right now where we're seeing where states with patient protection, so the cost in the United States from higher copays, up in the 28-29% range of price increases. States with patient protection and PBM protection, that drops down into the 26-27% range. So if we reform the PBM laws, I truly believe from some of the statistics that we're seeing is we would see a reduction in the costs, which it's not reducing in the model now, and it never will reduce unless we gain some control over these.
So you'd have to strip them back out of being owned by the companies that they work with.
Yeah, I think what you really need to do is make them transparent. So human resource departments of companies that hire insurance companies in their PBM can see how much it's costing them. Just like the postal workers. They found $45 million of overcharges.
And that's when you're looking at one side,
right.
The non-transparent side could be one heck of a multiplier for that number.
So, and I think human resources departments in businesses they have blindfolders put over them. They're convinced that use this insurance company and this PBM, it's going to save you money. They don't know. They're not shown the result of the plan that they bought. If you open the books and it becomes transparent, then and if it's truthful, because I don't trust that PBMs would release true information either, but if they're transparent and it's truthful, people making decisions for their employees are going to find that, well, we're being way overcharged for this. So that is bad for our employees. They get poor health care. They're not getting what they deserve, and it's costing this company a whole lot more than it should. And on a small scale, small businesses need to really consider that. On a big scale, the federal government needs to really figure it out because, again, it's our taxpayers' dollars that are at risk.
Kevin, I want to hold you over for one more break because we didn't even get into the spread pricing side of stuff and some of the nefarious business practices utilized by PBMs and some of these big insurance companies. This is Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bach along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. We're talking about PBMs, Pharmacy Benefits Managers. And, the argument that the PBMs, the insurance companies, the CVSs, the Caremarks, all of these different Walgreens, all these different companies, the big boxes, the argument they make is if you strip out the PBMs, then you're going to raise health care.
Right.
Well, we've seen health care going up.
Yeah.
You know, I remember back 10 years ago, I need to have a procedure done. I didn't have to have a pre-authorization. My doctor made that call.
Right.
You can't do anything without a pre-auth now.
My staff spends so much time daily working, trying to get pre-authorizations for, and sometimes the pre-authorization is for a prescription that a 3-month supply is going to be $20, and we have to go through all the paperwork. We bombard the doctor's staff. These physician staffs now have prior authorization departments to handle all the paperwork that's necessary, and sometimes it's for a small cost drug, but a big percentage of that is being kept by the PBM, so they're going to make us do all the work to do that prior authorization because they're going to make more money on the alternative, and it's just destroying our healthcare model.
And the patient doesn't benefit.
No, there's no benefit for the patient at all.
For example, I've had multiple arthroscopic surgeries on my knees. No cartilage in either one of them anymore. That's pretty much something the doctor knows. Is you got to clean that up every now and then. Yep. Well, you got to get a pre-auth for getting that cleaned up. It's got to take place. The lady example with the breast cancer you mentioned, they're actually driving up healthcare costs because they're not doing the prudent procedures or how your healthcare provider, your physician, would manage a case.
Right.
So if you're going to have to do more on the back end instead of fixing the problem on the front end, that costs money. That costs more money. But the PBMs they're just continuing to make money.
And any of the medical benefits managers are making all the money in healthcare. Physicians are leaving in droves because they're not getting paid. My best friend from pharmacy school is a pain management doctor in Minneapolis. His wife's an attorney. They would negotiate the fees that they would get paid for a procedure. And I think the last example he told me was a $5,200 procedure that was authorized, which was a lot less than what he would normally get paid. He got paid $52.
Wow.
And upon appeal, it was like, Well, the person that authorized that is no longer with the company. So
that's not my problem.
But that's what you're going to get. And he called me. He goes, "Not anymore. I'm done." He sold off his ownership in the surgical center that he owned in and built a house down on a ranch in southwest North Dakota, and travels into South Dakota to do work in indigent communities on the reservation.
Good for him.
Yeah. He's a great guy.
But it's sad.
But he's a great physician, and they drove him out.
That's all part of driving up healthcare.
Right.
It's all about driving up healthcare.
Yep.
So is the question then, coming back to the socialized medicine side, because this is the model, is that what they want? Because, hey, we're going to go to socialized healthcare, but we're going to be in charge of it.
As long as they're providing it and can generate the dollars back to themselves, I don't think they care at all about the patient. The last thing they worry about is the patient, in my opinion.
Patients, us, we're commodities to them. That's all we are.
We're cash cows to them.
Okay, so their argument all the time is you're going to drive up healthcare costs. Well, we've seen healthcare costs driven up. So to me, that doesn't wash. But there's some actual studies out there that say no, that the PBMs are driving up the healthcare.
I found this one, which is based on data from Kaiser Family Foundation. Controlling PBM conflicts of interest does not raise healthcare costs. And in this study, it was data from 2015 to 2019, and the increase in health insurance premium cost by percentage. In states without PBM licensing authority, that cost increased 17.04%. The nationwide average was 16.66%. States with PBM licensing authority dropped to 16.36%. So 3.3% below the national average, and the premium increase in a PBM managed world is 0.4% above the national average. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but remember, we're talking about $520 billion. Yeah. So add 0.4% to that, and you can see why the PBMs want to stay in control, because they're just going to continue to drive up the cost of premiums. That's what's happening.
Okay,
and the cost of drugs.
I want to talk quickly about spread pricing, because we're coming up against a break again. Explain spread price, because we've mentioned this a couple times.
So a PBM negotiates a discounted rate to the insurance companies for prescription medications because they're working for the plan sponsor. In our Medicare case, the government is the plan sponsor. But instead of passing these savings on to the plan sponsor and to the patients, because again, they're negotiating discounts so that the drugs are cheaper, the PBM reimburses the pharmacy one amount for filling the prescription, but they charge the insurance company a higher amount for that adjudication. So they'll pay me 41 cents, but they'll charge the plan sponsor, which in my mom's case is the government because she's on a Part D plan, they'll charge them $4.10. So how do they get away with that?
How do they validate the fee?
They're non-transparent.
Is that administrative costs? Is that we don't know.
We don't know. It's called the spread. So the PBM pockets the difference. This is known as the spread, resulting in higher premiums for beneficiaries, increased costs for patients. So our Part D plans, we help patients decide what's a good plan for them. Premiums are going up. Benefits are going down. So the benefits manager is in charge of this. They gain more in premiums and they gain more in reimbursement and they pay less. So they're just winning this. So according to CBO, which is Congressional Budget Office, banning spread pricing in state Medicaid managed care programs would save federal taxpayers $1 billion over 10 years by moving to transparent pharmacy reimbursements. Think about that. Congressional Budget Office. These people are in charge of budgeting for programming, and they've identified a $1 billion saving over a 10-year period of time if we move to a transparent pharmacy reimbursement. Why not? Why aren't we doing it?
Lobbyists. Well, and for example, in North Dakota, why are we not letting everything be run by our local PBM?
Right. Or why aren't
with oversight by the state?
A lot of other states are doing their own PBM work. because they're working with PBMs that are transparent. So Ohio's gotten really good at this. Arkansas, they're saving millions and millions of dollars of taxpayers' money by doing this.
So what's the solution? How do you fix it? I mean, just talk to your legislator, your congressman.
I think so. I think as a taxpayer, and I'm a taxpayer, but so are people listening. As taxpayers, you need to say enough is enough. Our local government, our state really need to look at what they can do to increase the transparency of the benefits managers that they're doing business with. Because if they increase the transparency, it's being shown by Congressional Budget Office that we can save, in this case, billions, but I think in the state's case, it would be millions of dollars.
Unbelievable. Well, talk to your local legislator. Make sure you protect our local pharmacies as well. Because as we mentioned, they're probably going to be coming after the ownership laws in North Dakota again.
And they'll be coming after me now.
Yeah, well, it's okay.
That's all right.
I think you're okay.
Yeah.
This is Talk of the Town. Kevin Oberland at Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore on Super Talk 1270.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken along with Joe Sheehan from Benchmark Mortgage. He is your mortgage planner. Give him a call at 701-400-3926. Joe, what are we looking at for numbers?
Oh, man. I'll tell you what. Well, we did get some relief on interest rates today, but that was after a lot of trouble. Very hot inflation news. As you know, last week, the inflation indexes kind of came off the chart, causing the bond market to spook a little bit. And, of course, consumer spending, retail sales up hotter than expected. All this leading to what everybody believes is going to be a hotter than expected GDP coming down the road. But, the president of the ECB was even commenting on, they're cutting rates and looking to cut rates in Europe. And what's different about Europe than the United States? And she's on record as it's your consumer. Your consumer is driving a completely different experience in the United States than what's going on in the rest of the world. And now there are some pockets of bad news, like, the full-time jobs are, there's less full-time jobs being created. A lot of these new jobs are part-time jobs and stuff like that. But still, though, you just have to say people have not let up the gas pedal as far as spending goes. And the outcome is, rates are up. Rates, average interest rate starting at this morning was about 7.5% being locked across the country. It's, obviously today closing a little better than that. But you have Powell coming out and saying, hey, listen, we appear to not, there's no sign that we are on track for our 2% target for inflation. And, we went from, you remember when everybody was saying there was going to be all these rate cuts, what did I say, Steve?
Yeah, not going to happen.
Well, we've gone from, I don't know what rate cuts for everybody, at the beginning of the year, to 7 to 5 to 3 to for sure June. But the target now, you'd have to say the target now is that no rate cuts, maybe this year at all.
Yeah,
and this economy is starting to look to me eerily like the 70s. Remember when, hey, we think we got inflation under control. Volcker kind of relaxed. He raised interest rates hard, and then all of a sudden it was like inflation wound up like a rubber band. And what else did you have going on in the 70s?
Really
trouble
long,
in the Middle East.
Really long gas lines.
I mean, we're just a couple of gas lines away from this looking like an eerily similar picture.
Well, and that was my other question with what's going on this week with Iran and Israel. And, okay, that means gas prices are going to creep up, and that's a big driver of the economy.
Yeah, it could. Now, I mean, obviously there's more oil sources now than there were then. You didn't have Venezuela. You didn't have the United States, as powerful as it is in oil production. Russia produces oil, and even though we don't get Russia's oil, Russia supplying somebody else's oil means they're not buying it from somebody else, right? So that is a more complex market than in the 70s. But man, could inflation wind up on us and take off again? And instead of rate cuts, we see rate hikes again? And it seems like I'm not saying that's going to happen, but boy, this looks a lot like a story we've heard before.
There can be no better time than to have a mortgage plan, and that's why you go to Benchmark and get that plan put in place. If you're a potential mortgage buyer, and you are looking at getting a house, do you dare blink right now?
No, I think that the right answer is you have to be. If you're going to wait for the perfect interest rate picture, you're not going to do anything. Well, in fact, if you're waiting for the perfect interest rate picture, guess what? You missed out on 5% in 2022. You missed out on 6% at the end of 2022 and 23. You missed out on 6% in 2023 again when they came down. Rates have gone up as high as 8. They're back at around 7. Mid-7s, low mid-7s, and they could come back down again. But if you've been sitting around waiting, meanwhile, what has happened to house prices since 2022? You may as well pay the higher interest rate on the house that you could have bought in 2022, but you've been waiting around for the best interest rate picture saying it's too expensive, and all you've done is cost yourself a higher payment and a more expensive house anyway.
Well, and that's why you tell people there's a lot more that goes into it, and thank you. You've educated me a great deal that there's a lot more that goes into it than just the interest rate, and that's why you need a mortgage plan. Now, the reason you weren't here last week was you guys specialize in helping veterans, and you had a big fundraiser. So you do VA loans, but you also had a big fundraiser last weekend and raised a lot of money.
Yeah, we our give back strategy is veterans, as you said, and we raised $1 million, over $1 million again, at our what we call our boot and shooting, and it was a great event, and I can't say I can't be any prouder than to work for a company that does this, because we have all these veterans that get up and talk about how their lives were completely changed by the Brain Treatment Foundation that we support, and the help that they got with PTSD and brain trauma, and how it literally has saved their lives. And there's a charity out there that's completely dedicated to veteran suicide called 22 Kill, because we've typically lost over 22 men and women a day to suicide. But that number has been up since COVID. It went down before COVID to like 19, but it's now up. You have to have a higher number than that, than 22, to how many veterans have taken their lives because they're suffering from these silent injuries, things that happen that you don't see on the outside. And I'm really proud of that. And also we also support first responders out of that. And our honoree this year was a firefighter out of Boston who his mom started the Last Call Foundation, and she his name was he was a Marine and then also a firefighter. And his name is Michael Kennedy, and her whole cause, and I'm bringing this back to Bismarck, and I want to talk to people in Bismarck about it, but I don't know if you knew this as mayor, but fire hoses are only rated for 3 minutes.
Wow.
Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Yeah, they're only rated for 3 minutes, and that's what happened to Michael. There was a flash. He was down in a basement of on Beacon Street trying to look for a tenant, and there was a flash over on his hose. When he called for water, the hose had already been burnt down, and he didn't get any water, and he died.
Wow.
And so he's a Marine. He's a firefighter, and so his mom is dedicated to his mom worked with a NASA scientist, and her husband was a thermal engineer, and they were being told that the technology didn't exist to make a hose better, but they've now built a hose that lasts 41 minutes under flash fire.
Wow.
And her goal was a hose should last at least as long as their air tanks last, which the air tanks are rated for like 15 to 20 minutes, but of course under stress they need to last 10 to 15. And so now, like I was talking to a police officer about this in Bloomington, and I shared the information with him. He's going to share it with the fire chiefs that he knows in Bloomington, Minnesota. But he goes, gosh, that would be like me running out of bullets.
Yeah.
Because that'd be a dumb reason to die. And I go, yeah, no, right?
It's hard to fight a fire without the proper equipment, and the hose and the water is kind of a big piece of that.
Yeah. So they've built a foundation that helps you connect with these hoses. They've got these hoses they've got connections to help firehouses buy these hoses. And, I know we don't have a lot of high rises and stuff like that, but still, basements, places where flashovers, grass fires, you could have a flash, you could get surrounded and get cut off in a natural fire as well. But anyway, it just seemed something like it's something important, and that was kind of the foundation that got highlighted and the veteran that got highlighted this year at the Big
Wow.
Shoot. And I was really proud of, and his mom was just the coolest person ever.
Joe, we're up against a break. Definitely, we're going to talk about this more, and I would love to help facilitate bringing that program back to Bismarck as well. So, Joe Sheehan over at Benchmark Mortgage. He's your mortgage planner. How do people get a hold of you, Joe?
701-400-3926.
Thank you very much. Joe Sheehan, this is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
1270.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, year 2 to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken, and coming up tonight, a really cool event. Boxers and Beer. McQuaid's Distributing, of course, big sponsor for that. And Heather from McQuaid's joining us. Heather, how many years has this been now?
This will be number 8.
Number 8. And by the way, I do appreciate never being invited to participate as a boxer wearer. So in the crowd,
that's not true. I feel like we asked you last year,
and the crowd thanks you. Well, I was thinking about the crowd. So
okay.
So 8 years now. What a great event! And for those that may not be familiar with Boxers and Beer, tell us who you support.
Sure. What it is an event, like you said, McQuaid Distributing is a big sponsor of it. And all the money that we raise tonight will actually go back to the Bismarck Cancer Center Foundation. And unfortunately, most of us have been touched by cancer in some way. So for us, it was a super fun way to look at it and say, what can we do to raise some money in the community and have a really good time doing it? So came up with Boxers and Beer.
Well, and a lot of people are familiar with the bras and
yes.
that event, which is to help support those fighting breast cancer. The thought process behind this was kind of like, well, how do we help the guys? They have cancer too.
Yeah, and that was a big thing is, like you said, everybody in October is really, breast cancer gets a ton of coverage and support. And actually, April is Testicular Cancer Awareness Month. And like you just said, there's a ton of men that get cancer, not only testicular, but this was a great way for us to do it. And also showcase, we've been lucky enough to have about 25 to 30 men that every year agree to get up and walk the runway for us, which I do not feel like is an easy task. So they have gotten up there and wore those decorated boxers and, like you said, help us make a lot of money for the Bismarck Cancer Center.
I've been to a lot of the events, and that crowd, which is mostly women, it's a tough crowd. It's hard to get up there and walk that catwalk.
Yeah, I mean, like I tell people, if you have never been to it, it is a ton of fun because most of the women that are here to have a super good time. There's a lot of laughter in that. But, yeah, I mean, anybody thinking that you're willing to get up and stand there in boxer shorts, it's a tough thing to do in front of 300 women that are screaming and yelling your name while you try and dance to a song that somebody else chose for you.
I will say this. They aren't judgmental either.
Not at all.
So anybody can actually go do this if you want to help out.
Yes, we have actually been super lucky. We had a Purple Heart Vietnam vet that did it one year. We have a gentleman that's on the Bismarck Cancer Center board that does it, who's in his 70s. So we literally have the gamut from 21-year-olds up till in their 70s. And we have kind of found that the guys with more dad bods and that just get up on stage and have a lot of charisma, they are actually the ones that bring us a lot of the money. Which is kind of crazy when you think about it.
So tell us how this works for those that may not be familiar, because you've still got tickets available. You can show up tonight. What's the process? And then how does it work for raising the funds?
Sure. If you want to show up tonight, we have tickets for $50 at the door. We actually implemented something new this year. We have happy hour upstairs in the TR Lounge. So the event is taking place at the Elks from 4 to 5:30. We'll be upstairs playing some fun games, just giving out some swag. Doors open at 5:30 for the main event. And what we'll do is there's a silent auction. There's a live auction where we auction off the boxers. McQuaid's will be here giving out samples. We, of course, have Broadway being our food sponsor. And then, like I said, all night long, whether it's a silent auction, we're going to sell some shots, live auction, all of that money will go directly to the Bismarck Cancer Center Foundation. So between the sponsors that purchase the tables, as well as all the ticket sales and all of the auction items that we have tonight, all of that money will go directly to help cancer patients locally.
And really a lot of great sponsors. You mentioned sponsorships, and the community involvement, especially anything around the Cancer Center, is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. We're super lucky because obviously McQuaid Distributing has been a sponsor, but we have Beck TV is the ticket sponsor. We have Dakota Junior Golf and the Elbow Room is doing the drink sponsorship. Food sponsorship is Broadway. And then, of course, we have Cashwise Liquors. We have Captain Jack's, Terry Benson. There's a handful of in-kind sponsors that we get. Furry Friends buys a table. There's individuals that buy tables, and we have a new model this year. His family actually bought a table to come and watch him walk the runway. So we're very lucky that we have a lot of sponsors that come back year after year, and then some new ones that kind of jump in each year depending on who's modeling. So we've been super fortunate that the community has embraced this crazy idea.
And how many models are you having this year?
The 28.
28. And, of course, so walk us through the process real quick on how people bid for the individual walking the runway, or dancing the runway, should I say?
Yes, I was going to say. Well, so we have actually Scott Bachmeyer and his crew come up from like the South Hart, Dickinson, Bowman area. So they actually come up and they do the auctioneering. So it is legit auctioneering. And what it is we have the men numbered 1 through 28. They get out on the stage. They, of course, have seen. So like the very first one that's coming out is, I believe, like finger licking good. So kind of like KFC chicken.
Oh, that's so wrong.
I know. So we're going to auction him off, and usually there's an item that goes with it. Like with our live auction this year, we have like a Busch Light LED, we have Country Fest VIP tickets, we have all of the country tickets to the state fair. So just a ton of cool different items that go along with the boxers. So not only are you getting the boxers, but the live auction items. So it is literally, we give you a paddle, you get a number, and then we let the crowd go crazy and see who's the highest bidder at the end, and they win the boxers as well as the item that is tied into the boxers.
Live auction, silent auction, all kinds of stuff. Still a few tickets available. It's going to be at the Elks this year. Tonight, starting at 5:30, doors open. Is that the pregame or is that the actual game?
Yes, that's the actual game. 4 o'clock, we're going to start happy hour upstairs at the TR Lounge. Till 5:30, and 5:30 we will swing the doors open for the main event.
Make sure you get out there early, $50 for a ticket at the door, and I don't know anybody who does not know somebody touched by cancer, so a great way to support. Of course, April, Testicular Cancer Month, Awareness Month. So, Heather, thanks, McQuaid's, and thanks for what you guys do putting on this great event.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Heather with McQuaid's Distributing, of course, beer and boxers tonight at the Elks. Pregame starts at 4 o'clock. You can get there early. Doors open at 5:30, and tickets just $50 at the door. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Welcome to the School for Startups Minute with Jim Beach.
You can have a stress-free life, or a life with very, very little stress. You do it by designing your life. Yesterday we talked about eliminating negative thoughts and replacing it with some silly fantasy. There's nothing wrong with that. It's better to pretend you just won American Idol than to sit there worrying about your promotion in the bills. I'll share the next step right after this.
This is Dr. Michael Garko for Strauss Naturals. The heart is only a bit larger than a fist. Each day it pumps about 2,000 gallons of blood through 60,000 miles of blood vessels. With this extraordinary workload, I encourage you to take Strauss Heart Drops to help support a healthy cardiovascular system. The Heart Drops are backed by a 100% satisfaction guarantee. No questions asked. Visit StraussNaturals.com to learn more and order the Heart Drops today.
Mindfulness is the act of controlling what you think about, actually thinking about what you are thinking about. In the morning, you get up and plan what your thoughts are going to be. You plan and say, today I am going to think happy thoughts. Today is going to be a happy day. When you have a bad thought, there's a plan of how to change what you're thinking about. Spend time on this and you'll be much happier.
Talk of the town.
KLXX Mandan Bismarck, a town square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union studio.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.